thank you for that. I think you're right. I think it speaks to a thing. Prior to coming to Congress, I was in the state legislature in Michigan, and we would always model our outreach. And instead of asking, are you a veteran? Because you're right, people will self-select out of that definition. You ask, did you ever serve in the military? And then you kind of can explore that from there. But it's hard to hold a resource fair and advertise it as, did you ever serve in the military fair? So it's a little bit harder to package. But I think it is part of that, going where people are instead of expecting them to come to us. I think there's a lot of, part of this is an inertia thing. Like you get started, you begin unpacking some of this, and then you work through the process and maybe obtain the benefits that you've kind of had on the back burner. Life comes at you, you're transitioning to civilian life, things are difficult. It's like being in a batting cage and you're figuring out how to get stood up again. And then you think you'll worry about it later, and then life comes in and you have a lot of other priorities. Even for our Vietnam generation coming home, they were treated so poorly when they came back that many of them just kind of packed it away, and then life took over, and then they moved to a different phase of life, and those things they had tried to pack away become to kind of percolate back out. And I really hope, and I think we are making the strident effort of making up the lost ground that we had with that generation, because they truly did suffer unnecessarily. And I think I will say, I'm grateful that generation made sure that our generation was welcomed back respectfully and with the dignity that all veterans deserve. And I think that each of our Vietnam veterans are owed a great deal of appreciation for that. Mr. Kirchner, I wanted to ask you a question. Since your really tragic experience with that provider, have you found, or have you gone back into any community care services? What has your experience been like more recently, and can you give us any insight into how that may or may not have improved and where you think those improvements ought to go?
Sure. First of all, community care, excellent. Excellent. Every time they call about the appointment, like you said, we'll get back with you 24, 48 hours. It's within 10 minutes they're calling. They're bringing their A game. Where I see that could be a benefit for the veterans and the VA is if I'm going to an audiology appointment, I want my records to be reviewed by an audiologist, not a heart doctor or a person that's had the training. I don't believe the people that are doing these exams are the right people doing the exams. I think that's where
You're talking for the compensation and pension?
Correct.
Okay, not the community care ongoing medical.
No, the community care, they're doing everything to get you there.
Sure.
That's where community care is on top of their game. I think that's where it's falling apart, is whenever community care is done, that's where it's falling off the board.
We'll take that back, because I'm not sure sitting here what the qualifications for those delegated outsourced compensation and benefit exams, what a requirement is for that person to be. I'm sure they have to be a medical doctor, but I'm not sure in which specialty or what that would involve. So we'll take that back for consideration for some questions to VA about that. So I appreciate your insight there. And Dr. Zomchek, one thing, I know you talked about outreach with mental health and that being important, and I think that is a continuing effort we have to keep working toward. One population that we found some success in Michigan was actually reaching out to spouses of veterans as well, because oftentimes they are observing the behavioral challenges that veterans may have in a more intimate setting back home that they're not displaying out in public at their job, or they're taking that hardship back home with them. And I think that outreach to the spouses of saying, hey, here are some benefits that may be available to your loved one, may be that soft encouragement that they need to make the decision to come in to receive the help that they should have and certainly have earned. And I don't know if that's anything you've explored at all, or if it's worthy of your consideration or not.
Yes, that's a great point. We know the connectivity with our veterans is often with family members, often children, could be a neighbor. I think as I hear this discussion about outreach and connectivity with our veterans, of course we have telehealth coordinators, we have people to talk and to train and to teach our veterans and family members, but I really think that a multifaceted approach is what's needed. There can be some of these standardized approaches that we're doing, but what I've seen in my network is I have very rural and very urban centers, and even some of the hospitals that are very urban have very rural CBOCs. And so having a group, each of the facilities does, I think, a great job of even with town hall meetings in reaching out and opening up our connections. Sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's with Facebook, but whenever possible, we certainly invite spouses and family members to be involved in the care, so long as it's, it's okay from a
Sure.
health information standpoint.
Do you know of any way that we've kind of tried to do the direct outreach to the spouses or near close family members of veterans, with resources from the VA to encourage them to try and encourage their veteran loved one to explore their benefits?
I'd have to take that back.
Okay.
I'd be happy to follow up with you about any specific program or initiative about that.
Sure.
I think mostly what we do is it's all encompassing. So
Yeah.
all of the outreach that we do, we do not turn down if someone is asking about their father or mother
Right.
or sibling.
Yeah, I just think it might be a useful inroad with veterans. It turns out I have a wife and she thinks I'm rather stubborn, so maybe I'm the only one, I don't know. But thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Ranking Member Buzinski, go ahead.
Sure, I just